Valorheart is one of the most unique weapons in Dark Souls 3 for multiple reasons, and FromSoft deserve big thanks for spicing the meta as nicely as they did with Valorheart. Today we will discuss all of its special properties, starting with its moveset. As far as I know, Valorheart is the only weapon in the game that has 3 unique R1 animations. For example, when using Lucerne, you can see it cycling between 2 unique R1 animations, Slam and Swipe. Whenever I input third R1 in succession, it resets the pattern. However, this is not the case for Valorheart because it has 3 unique R1s. It also has a unique jump and attack animation. Being a paired weapon of shield and sword, you gain access to block when you two-hand Valorheart. Other than that, its moveset is more or less plain straight sword moveset. The R2 is a thrust and dashing attack is a wide angle swipe that has deceptively long reach. Lengths get a lot more interesting when we take a look at its rolling attack. You can notice how your character keeps the offhand shield up while performing the poke. This is another unique property of Valorheart, being a paired weapon with shield in offhand and sword in main hand. All of its attacks, excluding R2 and dashing attack, feature block frames. This means that even when you attack with Valorheart, you can block the incoming hits. Those block frames are very short, and they are located in the beginning of each attack. It will take some skill to use them correctly, but we will cover that a bit later. As for now, let's inspect its offhand moveset. All2 is a shield and sword stance, with your R1 being classic straight sword lunge attack and R2 being shield roar that stuns your opponent. Despite it looking incredibly quick on R1s, it has identical frame data to all other straight swords, so the swing speed is the same. What playstyle does Valorheart encourage? Obviously the most defensive one. If you like staying as passive as you can and have enough patience to bait the mistakes out of your opponent, Valorheart is an excellent choice for you. Mainly because you don't even have to bait mistakes, since it has block frames on most of its attacks. All you really need to do to use it effectively is to learn to trade with the use of it. Every trade that you make with Valorheart is a guaranteed win, because despite it not being good of a shield and mediocre sword, you will still take a lot less damage than your opponent will take. Not only that, if your opponent is not using hyper armor weapon, you will break your opponent's form when trading with Valorheart, allowing you to continue the combo. However, be cautious, as each hit you will take while attacking or blocking drains a lot of your stamina and you may end up being guard broken on a trade. It looks rather short, but don't be fooled, it is as long as Dark Sword. By now I guess all of you are curious, what would be its main weakness? Well, it's poor offensive play and really bad tracking. It is hard to illustrate in isolated conditions for a video how bad of a tracking it has, but you will notice it within first couple of duels if you try to use it. More often than not, you will overshoot your opponent with fancy R1s and miss the hit completely. None of its attacks have very good tracking. For example, rolling attack is hard to land even against a still standing opponent. This gets amplified by the fact that Dark Souls 3 Arena has an uneven elevation, so your chances to whiff a clean hit on Arena are extremely high. When you strip it down to its basics, ignore all the fancy block frames that take a lot of skill and perfect connection to use, you end up with a pretty mediocre sword and shield combo. It's not a bad shield per se, but there are a lot of better options that offer more stability, defense, and more usable weapon art. The sword itself has a very low AR, possibly the lowest in the class, topping at 386 AR on 40/40 quality build. This makes it a very bad offensive weapon, and if your playstyle relies on aggression, you'll be better off with something else. If you want to experiment with your build using Valorheart, I've got a couple of ideas for you. Since it is a paired weapon, it does not get two-handed strength modifier bonus. Having descaling in strength and C in dex, you can try to reinvest some of your strength into vitality or vigor, and enjoy the benefits of higher defense. Or you may go the other way, since the perfect way to use Valorheart requires you to stay passive, focusing on defense. You may drop all of the armor in favor of rags and use Valorheart with Flynn's Ring. The armor you wear doesn't really matter when you're using its block frames to tank the incoming hits. However, Flynn's Ring may allow you to compensate for its weak attack rating. Facing good Valorheart user in PvP can be tricky, And the best counter against it is patience. The moment you make Valorheart user go aggressive on you, Valorheart loses all of its charm. Remember that dashing attack doesn't feature any block frames, so you can safely trade with it. Due to the low attack rating on Valorheart, you are guaranteed a trade win with almost any pure quality weapon. If you can out-patience Valorheart user, wait for our one-whiffs. Since block frames are located only in the beginning of each attack, you can safely trade with Valorheart if you sneak your attack mid-Valorheart combo. That being said, if you want to be aggressive against it, using Spear works rather well, and with enough patience you can simply outrange its R1 swings, chipping your opponent to death. Other than that, I suggest toying with dark and deep weapons to see whether they can offer enough chip damage to make it worth using. Bleed is another excellent tool at pacifying Valorheart users. Washing Pole and Carthus Rouge can guarantee you success if you are going for hit and run strategy. Overall, Valorheart is a very unique weapon and a good addition to Dark Souls 3 arsenal. It plays unlike anything else we have seen before, and it takes a lot of skill and patience to use it correctly, but in the end it's a very rewarding experience. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.